Hi everyone, welcome back to Connie's English. 今天这一集想继续跟大家分享《傲慢与偏见》这一本书。那如果大家还没有听上一集第3章节的第一部分的话，可以倒回第36集。如果大家想阅读这本书的话，我们有电子版本已经放到我们的网站上，那大家可以在这一集下方的链接去购买这本书。那今天就会继续第3章 Chapter 3的第二部分。Elizabeth Bennet had been obliged by the sagacity of gentlemen to sit down for 2 dances, and during part of that time, Mr. Darcy had been standing near enough for her to overhear a conversation between him and Mr. Bingley, who came from the dance for a few minutes and to press his friend to join it. "Come, Darcy," said he.I must have you dance. I hate to see you standing about by yourself in this stupid manner. You had much better dance. I certainly shall not. You know how I detest it, unless I am particularly acquainted with my partner. At such an assembly as this, it would be insupportable. Your sisters are engaged, and there is not another woman in the room whom it would not be a punishment to me to stand up with.I would not be so fastidious as you are, cried Bingley. For a kingdom, upon my honour, I never met with so many pleasant girls in my life as I have this evening, and there are several of them you see uncommonly pretty. You are dancing with the only handsome girl in the room, said Mr. Darcy, looking at the eldest Miss Bennet. Oh, she is the most beautiful creature I ever beheld.But there is one of her sisters sitting down just behind you, who is very pretty, and I dare say, very agreeable. Do you let me ask my partner to introduce you? Which do you mean? And turning round, he looked for a moment at Elizabeth, till catching her eye, he withdrew his own and coldly said, She is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me.And I am in no humour at present to give consequence to young ladies who are slighted by other men. You had better return to your partner and enjoy her smiles, for you are wasting your time with me. Mr. Bingley followed his advice. Mr. Darcy walked off, and Elizabeth remained with no very cordial feelings towards him. She told the story, however, with great spirit among her friends,But she had a lively, playful disposition, which delighted in anything ridiculous. The evening altogether passed off pleasantly to the whole family. Mrs. Bennet had seen her eldest daughter much admired by the Netherville party. Mr. Bingley had danced with her twice, and she had been distinguished by his sisters. Jane was as much gratified by this as her mother could be, though in a quieter way.Elizabeth felt Jane's pleasure. Mary had heard herself mentioned to Miss Bingley as the most accomplished girl in the neighbourhood, and Catherine and Lydia had been fortunate enough to be never without partners, which was all that they had yet learned to care for at the ball. They returned therefore to good spirits to Loughborough, the village where they lived, and of which they were the principal inhabitants. They found Mr. Bennet still up.With a book he was regardless of time, and on the present occasion he had a good deal of curiosity as to the event of an evening which had raised such splendid expectations. He had rather hoped that all his wife's views on the stranger would be disappointed, but he soon found that he had a very different story to hear. "Oh, my dear Mr. Bennet," as she entered the room, "we have had a most delightful evening.A most excellent ball. I wish you had been there. Jane was so admired, nothing could be like it. Everybody said how well she looked, and Mr. Bingley thought her quite beautiful, and danced with her twice. Only think of that, my dear. He actually danced with her twice, and she was the only creature in the room that he asked a second time. First of all, he asked Miss Lucas.I was so vexed to see him stand up with her, but, however, he did not admire her at all. Indeed, nobody can, you know, and he seemed quite struck with Jane as she was going down the dance. So he inquired who she was, and got introduced, and asked her for the 2 next. Then the 2/3 he danced with Miss Kane, and the 2/4 with Mary Lucas, and the 2/5 with Jane again, and the 2/6 with Lizzie and Boulanger. If he had had any compassion for me, cried her husband impatiently, he would not have danced half so much. For God's sake, say no more of his partners. Oh, that had he sprained his ankle in the first dance. Oh, my dear, continued Mrs. Bennet, I am quite delighted with him. He is so excessively handsome, and his sisters are charming women. I never in my life saw anything more elegant than their dresses. I dare say the lace upon Mrs. Hurst's gown. Here she was interrupted again. Mr. Bennet protested against any description of finery. She was therefore obliged to seek another branch of the subject, and related, with much bitterness of spirit and some exaggeration, the shocking rudeness of Mrs. Darcy. But I can assure you, she added, that Lizzie does not lose much by not suiting his fancy, for he is a most disagreeable, horrid man, not at all worth pleasing, so high and so conceited that there was no enduring him. He walked here and he walked there, fancying himself so very great, not handsome enough to dance with. I wish you had been there, my dear, to have given him one of your set-downs. I quite detest the man. 到这里就是第3章的内容。那在第3章中呢 Elizabeth 就因为没有男士邀请跳舞而被迫坐下来，在这个期间就听到 Mr. Darcy 以及 Mr. Bingley 之间的对话。那 Mr. Bingley 就希望Mr. Darcy 去参加舞会，但是 Mr. Darcy 就冷漠地拒绝了，并且公开表示他不愿意与任何女士共舞，尤其是 Elizabeth， 因为她不够吸引。那这样 Elizabeth 对 Mr. Darcy 先生反感，并且在朋友之间就讲述了这件事。Bennet 这一家对这个晚上整体来说就感到很满意，尤其是 Jane， 因为她受到了 Mr. Bingley 还有她姐妹的青睐。那返回家之后呢， Mrs. Bennet 就对她的丈夫滔滔不绝地表述了这个舞会，特别是 Mr. Bingley 对 Jane 的欣赏以及 Mr. Bingley 的无理行为。那以上就是这章节的主要内容。那以下我抽出了几个词汇，第一个就是 obliged， 就是被迫的 obliged。第二个就是 scarcity， 缺乏的意思。那 acquainted 这个词在前2个章节也有出现过，就是熟悉的意思。insupportable 就是无法忍受的。下一个字是 fastidious， 挑剔的。agreeable 这个词也是经常出现，就是令人愉快的，满意的。下一个单词就是 cordial 就是热情友好的 cordial。那最后一个单词就是 conceited 就自负的，自大的意思。那今天这一节就到这里了。如果大家想报名我们的成人英语课程，可以到我们的网站报名或者直接联系我。那我们下次再见，拜拜。